So I just wanted to make a maybe quick, maybe not rant about just like the state of the Progressive Party. Well, like I wanted to rant about just like some people and how they're kind of fucking it up for, the whole Progressive Party. Like certain ideas that some people in the Progressive Party hold, and how it's kind of fucking it up for all of us. Um, and this is going to be like a very unstructured, unorganized, chill rant, but important, important points to hear about if we really want our movement to succeed. Like, basically, like the kind of idea tying all this together is progressives really need to understand that they can't just, because right now they're literally just throwing shit at the wall and sticking with whatever sticks. And the problem is that some of the stuff we're throwing at the wall, even if we can explain it to like ourselves, we can explain it to like each other, it, some of it just looks really bad, to other people outside of the left, like outside progressives, like to the, to people who are on the left but not necessarily progressive, to Republicans, to independents. And I know for example, automatically I know that there are some people who are going to be like, who cares if we look bad to Republicans? Like, that's kind of the problem. Like, you can't, that's a big thing that some progressives like doing. It's just like completely dismissing Republicans and treat them like enemy that doesn't matter. You realize that's like 40 to 50% of the country right there. Like, it's a huge chunk of the country that you're saying like, yeah, it doesn't matter, fuck them. It's like, whatever they think, it's like that's 40 to 50 or whatever percent of the country. Like, you can't just try to operate it in a world. You can't try to operate like a kingdom sense where like they're like banished and like just don't exist, and you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about them, or you're just trying to like, say fuck whatever you think. You're like, we're gonna do whatever we want to do. That's literally millions of people that you're just like, nah, your values don't matter. Like, there are people who are very bigoted within the Republican Party, and their bigoted ideas should not be allowed to exist. It's just like, we have to find a fucking way, and I know it seems impossible, but we have to find a way to like fight against bigotry, but not in a way where we're like alienating half the fucking country. Okay? Okay, so here's one thing, right? Here's kind of an example of like us looking like clownish. When January 6th happened, a big thing that progressive people complained about was like, oh, if black people did this, or if we did this, or minorities did this, like marched on the Capitol, we get shot. Yeah, unfortunately, we do have that problem with the police more likely to shoot black people and brown people, and police being more trigger happy with like minorities, because that's literally what they were kind of like, established to do way back in like the 1800s, was to round up minorities, round up slaves, all sorts of horrible things like that. But when we're saying shit like that, and we're not, saying anything after that, we kind of look like, we're shaming the people who did January 6th, but we're also kind of putting a message out there that we totally do that if we weren't so likely to get shot. Like, that's kind of what we're doing, by saying like, oh, if black people did this, they get shot. If you're talking about like protesting, then make that real fucking clear, because like, I'm kind of surprised that people didn't come under investigation by saying, like, oh, you know, if there weren't black people kind of doing this, I mean, if police didn't shoot black people so much, like we do, you're implying that you do this, like you're implying you would do January 6th and march on the Capitol and try to take it over, you know, if you weren't, you know, if you weren't so likely to get shot. Like, honestly, that's kind of what people are saying there. Like, okay, you know, like, what people did on January 6th was totally fucked up. We can't seem like we, you know, be the same way and also condone, you know, the people who did it. Like, make up your minds, you know? Like, and also just, like, I mean, the way we tried to, like, boycott is really, really fucking just, I know I'm kind of straying away from the point of, like, oh, you know, like, we can't just pretend half the country doesn't exist. We can't. But, you know, in that, there's also kind of the point that, like, things that we try to do to try and create, like, justice hurt a lot more people than they ever help. Because, like, for example, when you're out there boycotting places like Chick-fil-A because, oh, some CEO guy donates to anti-LGBT organizations, guess what? Chick-fil-A is a fucking franchise. Like, very little of your money actually goes to the fucking CEO you're trying so desperately to not support. Like, okay? Like, it just fucking doesn't. A lot more of that money, you know, there's a lot more significance in, a lot more of that money goes to, like, the local people who are making the sandwiches, who are, you know, running the drive-thru. And by, you know, sitting there being all, thinking you're all super, like, smart and, like, you know, self-righteous, going like, yeah, I don't support Chick-fil-A because it doesn't, you know, I don't support Chick-fil-A because they do not support LGBT. It's one person or, like, two people on the very top who don't support LGBT. And you're fucking over, like, everyone in between. Because, you know, you think that you're somehow gonna have some fucking effect. Like, and guess what? Some of the people who work at these Chick-fil-A's that you're, like, not supporting are LGBT, you know, and the more people who stop going to Chick-fil-A, the more they're gonna have to cut hours for those people or pay them less because you decide, oh, you know, they're not worthy of my business. Like, you're just fucking over small businesses, you know, in your local area. Like, they are part of a bigger chain, yes, but, like, they are their own kind of operation. And you're choosing not to support them because, you know, some guy on the top is, like, making you angry. You know? Like, you're just fucking over, like, your neighbors because you think you're making a fucking statement, but Chick-fil-A is still as popular as ever, so it just really fucking grinds my gears when people out there try to say, oh, I don't support Chick-fil-A because they don't support LGBT. Full transparency, I am bigender and bisexual, so, you know, I say this as someone who, you know, is part of that community. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. Stop. And kind of the same with the big Amazon protest. I mean, you're, like, the majority of the consequence of your attempt at a boycott is going to be felt by, like, people who, you know, like, are struggling. Like, they didn't go to college, so they don't have, like, you know, a bunch of choices for work. And some of the most, you know, lucrative choices to get, you know, to have a job is working at an Amazon warehouse. Like, they give you lots of hours, you know, it's fucking hard work, and it's pretty shitty, like, living conditions, like, it's shitty, like, working conditions, but you're making money. Like, definitely some people do quit because of the shitty conditions, but they're still making money. And you, like, boycotting with, like, no actual, you know, end goal is just kind of making things harder on them more than anything. Like, you want to help them, then, like, support the local unions, support, you know, the local efforts to make unions, and also, I don't know, do things like put snacks out for delivery drivers to show you care. Like, do more local things like that rather than trying to make some political movement. Guess what? You know, there's no structure to it. It's just like, everyone don't fucking shop at Amazon. Everyone don't fucking, you know, shop at Chick-fil-A. Hopefully they'll get what we're saying. Like, I don't see how that's supposed to actually have an effect. You know, y'all are just doing it to feel better about yourselves. Like, you know, I go to the university I go to. Like, it's pretty easy to find out if you know it, but, like, kind of don't want to say it just cause. But anyway, like, a lot of people here virtue signal. Not everyone. A lot of people do, though. Like, they pretend to care about minorities. You know, they pretend to care about the issues that, you know, professors bring up, or, like, the diversity office brings up. But, like, when minorities actually talk, they don't care. You know, they don't care to hear about it. They don't actually care to, like, listen about what we're struggling with. They'll actually, you know, do what they can to, to deny kind of, like, what you're experiencing. You know, oh, somebody, like, a black RA thinks that, you know, somebody took apart his Black History Month display because of racism. No possible way. You know, frats do that all the time. Like, they dunk shit all the time. Pretty sure that display was on, like, multiple levels, like, multiple floors. You know, you'd have to be pretty not drunk to be doing that. I don't know. I kind of call bullshit on the excuses people were making with that, but it's what it is. I mean, it fucking sucks. Like, you know, I can't imagine there isn't, you know, a section of, like, progressives who are like that, who do a lot of virtue signaling, but, like, when it comes to actually hearing out people of color, like, actually hearing about our experiences and, like, the variety of, like, you know, how we feel about things, because we're not a monolith. We don't all agree on whatever point one person makes about any topic. Like, they don't care to hear about that, you know? Like, they just don't. And yeah, you know, like, that kind of goes along with, you know, how people treat Republicans. Some of them are fucking bigots and horrible. Some of them just want a fucking smaller government, like, less government involvement. And yeah, you can disagree with even just that, and that's fine. But the point is, not all Republicans are bigots. Like, the left seems to like to, you know, gather everyone together. Like, they like to really categorize everyone and have, like, a neat little box definition for every party. I mean, for every, you know, group that they can think of. Like, this is this group, this is what they want, blah, 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 blah. And, like, humans are, you know, prone to categorize things, but, like, we need to fucking acknowledge that and actually make an effort to actually, like, combat that. Like, you know, treat people as individuals and not like groups of people, you know? Like, again, this country is kind of screwed if, like, the group that's supposed to be, you know, on the right side of history is, like, all they can do is just, like, you know, banish the bigots until they fall in line. Like, that's unfortunately why we have racism still, because, like, all we did was tell them to kind of deal with it. We never made any effort to, like, tell them, I mean, to, like, we never, like, we've made maybe some effort, but, like, we never, you know, straight up were like, yo, okay, why are y'all so racist? Okay, let's figure out how to fucking deal with this. Like, you know, everyone thinks like, oh, it's impossible to talk people out of racism or, you know, anti-LGBT thoughts. And it's like, you know, for some people, sure. But like, I think part of why it feels so impossible is because we never really made that much of an effort to begin with. Like, everyone kind of dismissed it as impossible before a lot of people even tried personally to, you know, to make any, you know, attempt at, like, fighting bigots. Like, I think, you know, we could, I think with, like, a lot of, like, studying and, like, trial and error, we could come up with, like, a good way to, like, fucking, you know, get people, I mean, like, understand people, and then, like, you know, talk them out of, like, help them out of, like, this, you know, this mindset of bigotry that they have. Like, for example, some people are just bigots because, like, they have had bad experiences with whatever group of people. Like, you know, I have struggled with my own feelings, even despite being LGBT, of the LGBT community, because they've fucking, like, some people who've happened to be LGBT, I've had a lot of bad experiences with people who've happened to be LGBT, and, you know, I still feel overall, like, good things about the LGBT community, but the bad experiences I have had, not gonna lie, they do kind of color kind of how I see these, you know, these people, because, like, you know, LGBT had, like, their identity as LGBT has impacted how they treated me. I don't want to, you know, get into too many, like, examples. I don't want to, like, dox people or anything like that, but, like, it, you know, my whole point is that bigotry can come from actual bad experiences, and that can be helped through therapy, you know? Like, it can be helped through, like, therapy programs that are able to, like, you know, have people kind of talk this shit out, like, work through it. But no, we just kind of, you know, dismiss them as bigots, I guess. Like, again, kind of, you know, circling back to what I began talking about. I mean, we're supposed to be a united nation, you know? Like, yeah, we have a bunch of states, but that just matters as far as, like, you know, having different lifestyles kind of thing. Like, you know, different climates and cultures, like, impacting, you know, like what that specific state needs, and, like, that, you know, that's why we have, like, statewide governments and statewide laws and whatnot. We're supposed we're supposed to be a whole united nation, you know, beyond that. Like, we're supposed to rise above those differences. We're supposed to be able to. But as time has gone by, we find more and more excuses why that's impossible. And I just don't buy it. Not at the level that we have gotten to. There is some, you know, unrepairable divide, in a sense that, like, some people will not be convinced to change certain ways, but I really think that there's a lot we can do when we actually, you know, work with the people, you know, on the other side, and not just dismiss them as, like, horrible, evil, irredeemable people. Like, I feel like that's what Bernie Sanders could have achieved, and I feel like, you know, that's a part of the reason, like, he was so, you know, like, part of the reason the left really didn't want him as part of, to become president, because, you know, he could have actually united us, so we could have actually, you know, when we're united, we have a lot more chance to, like, actually be successful in fighting the corruption in Congress. Not by doing any January 6th type shit, but, like, you know, actually, you know, coming up and, like, protesting and, you know, like, actually taking actions locally and federally, you know, that actually make a fucking difference. And like where we demand change. But until then, until we can, you know, like get beyond, like, until we can get beyond this attitude of like, oh, if somebody's different, like they're hopeless. Until we can get beyond that, we're kind of screwed. Like, I feel like there's more I could say, but I feel like this is a good place to stop. Like I said, it was very disorganized. Hopefully people got something out of it. Thanks for watching. See ya.